Hi, I'm Davis Hammer with Loud Light, and this is a recap of the fourth week of the Kansas legislative session. On Monday, we learned that Governor Brownback had made 2 illegal appointments to the Children's Cabinet in an attempt to stack it with party allies. Only 3 out of 5 of the governor's appointments to this cabinet can be of the same party. Once the media called Brownback on this, he said it was made in error. On Tuesday, the Senate State and Federal Affairs Committee did an oral vote where they decided not to advance the campus carry exemptions, meaning that route is very unlikely for this bill. Wednesday morning, a Civil Air Patrol commander resigned his post after criticism for what appears to be death threats against Republican Representative Stephanie Clayton for her introduction of a bill to exempt college campuses and public hospitals from campus carry. This was right before the hearing in the House on that bill. Just like the Senate bill, it had overwhelming public support and a few gun lobbyists speaking in opposition. On Thursday, we learned through a Capitol Journal Freedom of Information request that the feds had informed the Kansas Department of Health and Environment back in December of major shortcomings related to disability services oversight. Again, the Brownback administration kept the legislature in the dark about this report. Democrat Senator Laura Kelly commented how in a recent 2-hour hearing on how the department was not disclosing information, this report was not disclosed to the legislature. Sedgwick County, home of Wichita, is facing a dilemma after an executive order from Donald Trump barring federal funds to sanctuary jurisdictions. The problem comes from the fact that there's no legal definition of what a sanctuary city or jurisdiction is. I mention this because Kansas Secretary of State and Donald Trump advisor Chris Kobach had Republican Representative John Whitmer introduce a bill that would do the exact same thing on a state level, withholding state funds from counties or cities considered to be sanctuaries. The second part of this bill would have the Kansas Highway Patrol act as immigration enforcement officers. The Kansas Highway Patrol was never consulted about this bill, and it would stretch their already very limited funds. This is also interesting because the Secretary of State who recommended this bill, that position is supposed to be exclusively for just documenting things and running elections. It's just a glorified secretary position. It's not supposed to be playing cowboy. Friday, the Kansas Board of Regents President Blake Flanders asked the state to increase funding for higher education. Over the last 3 years, the state has cut $75 million to higher education, and that has mostly been passed on to students in the form of skyrocketing tuition. Coming up in week 5, there's a lot of action now. A lot of things are starting to move. One of the big things is going to be the KanCare expansion hearing, which if you're confused about that, KanCare expansion is just Medicaid expansion. On Wednesday, there will be the proponent testimony at 1:30, and at 12:15 beforehand, there will be a rally inside the Capitol for proponents. One other thing is, so these videos have been awesome, and I very much so appreciate the feedback. They do take a lot of time and energy, and Loud Light is a nonprofit, so if you would consider making a donation, if you are able, please go over to loudlight.org/donate and help support this so that I can keep on dedicating my weekends to making these for you. Until next time, thanks, Kansas.